Hello, I'm Brant McCurdy. This is the Literacy Lab podcast with host Rhonda Hayes. Tune in to foster lifelong learning through the magic of literacy.
For this first episode, I'd like to talk about setting up the classroom and the things that I think are most important because it's August and most people are going back to school. Some people even started today. So whether you've already set up your classroom or you're about to set up your classroom, I would like for you to think about these things. So where did you put your desk? Or where will you put your desk? It's important for the teacher's desk to be situated in the room so that the teacher has direct eye contact with the door. You want to be basically across the room from the door, maybe not straight across, but perhaps at an angle, depending on where the door is located in your room. But if your desk is beside the door, it might be that you won't notice when someone comes to the door, and that's not safe if there was an intruder in the building. So I always like to recommend for people to put their desk across the room from the door so that you have direct eye contact. Secondly, I'd like for you to think about where your large group is situated, because the students really need their backs to the door so that they're not distracted if someone does come to the door. Students go to the bathroom, they're coming and going to maybe special services. A guest may come to the door, administrators come to the door. A lot of things happen. And so if the large group space is situated so that the students' backs are to the door, they're less likely to be disturbed. And then that leads to where you're supposed to sit. So you want to make sure that you're facing the students so that you have direct eye contact to the door. So that should be pretty easy to come up with. The third thing I'd like for you to think about is how can you make your classroom more student-owned? Because if the students own the classroom, they feel like it's theirs and they, quite frankly, learn more. In grades K through 2 especially, I like for the students to help create the literate environment. The things that go up on the wall, I like for the students to make them, instead of it being teacher-made or for the teachers to purchase something. Simple things like the alphabet train. Students can create their own alphabet train by taking a letter a day. The teacher reads lots of alphabet books. They can choose what word they'd like to represent the letter of the day that they're focusing on. And then either the teacher could teach the students how to draw objects, begin with that letter through directed drawing, or the teacher could draw it and let the students color or paint the object that you're going to place on the alphabet train. I like to do it at the beginning of the year and take the first 26 days of school to create this. It doesn't matter what grade, K1 or 2. You can make it more difficult as each grade goes up by adding a sentence or phrase to go with the letter. Another item just like this are the color words. Students can create the color word posters by either coloring things that are of that particular color. They could cut out things out of the magazine. They could paint. There are all kinds of ways you could do it. You could add words to the things that they've colored, and it almost becomes a Pictionary too. Number words can be done in so many ways. And then birthday charts are easy to do with students helping to create it. So those are just a few of the tips of things I'd like you to think about. And so we're going to take a short break just for you to look around your room and pause to reflect on how your classroom is set up. So we're back, and I wish that I could be right there with you, sitting beside you to talk with you about what you reflected on about your own classrooms. And I do hope that the things that I shared with you were helpful. So, for the next part of this episode, I'd like to focus on grades 3 through 5 because they're a little bit different than grades K through 2, primarily because there are usually more children in the room because the class size is usually larger and the bodies are larger. And so it makes it look like you have less space. Oftentimes, you don't have room for a large class meeting and you just don't have the physical space because of the numbers of desks and the size of the students. So I'm so excited about Brant being here with me because he is a student and he's a sixth grader. What better person to ask than to ask a student what they notice when they go into a classroom? So, Brant, when you walk into a classroom, what's the first thing that you notice about the room?
First thing that I notice is if the teacher is organized or if they're messy.
Ah, um, I won't put you on the spot and ask you to talk about a messy classroom or an organized classroom, but I do hope if you have some ideas of things that you've noticed that sometime while we're talking, you'll want to share. You got an idea?
So, what I like is a teacher that has like a way for like if I'm absent one day and I don't make it into class, I don't want to be asking everyone around me what do I do and no one knows. I want to have like an absent bin or an absent bucket that I can just go to and look at. Or like, where do I turn my work into? Do I turn it in here or do I just give it to you or do I do this? Or and also something that I like is up if you have a whiteboard, I like it if you write the schedule down, what all we're going to be doing today. And, that's pretty much what I like about that's what I mean about a neat classroom and not a
Oh,
messy one.
those are really great ideas. So I always like to have, when I was a classroom teacher, a folder that had your absent on it, and I would just fold a piece of construction paper if I didn't have a file folder, put the kid's name on it, and then anything that we did that day, any work was put into that folder. And then when the kid comes in the room the next day, they have their folder and it's all ready. They know what it is. But I love your idea also about having a place in the room where you tell the students up front, this is where, if you're absent, you go when you come back. Okay, you want to add something?
So, something else that I like is online work. It might sound weird, but like I really like online work, because me personally, I'm really good at losing papers. I'm really good at losing things in my book bag and then not finding them for a week and then getting a bad grade because it was an NHI. So I like online work too, on like Schoology, Power School, Google Classroom. I really like those websites to be able to go on, do my work, do a Google form, and then I'm done.
All right, that's a great suggestions. You also mentioned about writing the schedule for the teacher to have a place for this schedule
Mm-hmm.
to be posted. Those are terrific ideas. Okay, let's move on and talk about the actual physical space in the room. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, have you ever had a teacher that had alternative seating? And by that, I mean, did they have high top tables and stools or low top tables where the legs were off and you're sitting on the floor, or even bouncy chairs behind a desk? And what are your thoughts about alternative seating?
Well, I haven't really had a specific teacher that's done that, but I've had like specials that have done that before. And there's just particular things about those alternative seating that I don't really like. Alternative seating can sometimes start drama. Like one kid says that they sat in this seat last week and then they didn't, or they say that they didn't sit in it so they can just go sit in it again, then everyone starts fighting over it. I also don't like it because if one kid's bouncing up and down on like let's just say it's a bouncy ball, one kid's bouncing up and down and up and down and up and down, that can start a distraction for everybody, and it can be distracting to the kid to be playing with the ball the entire time.
It's so funny for me to hear you say that about the bouncy balls because when I go into classrooms, I know that there's some kids that might need some kind of little movement to help them stay focused. But when you walk in and you see a whole bunch of kids on bouncy balls, it's very distracting for me. And I wondered if other kids might be distracted by it. I do kind of like the high top tables. I think that's kind of cool. Have you ever had a chance for that?
So yeah, whenever I go to library, we have high top tables, and it's actually my librarian is at my school is pretty organized. So we have a seating chart so that no one's able to start drama and stuff. So and I do like high top seating because some kids in the back, if you're in like let's just say you can't really see very well because there's a bunch of tall kids in the front. If you have high top seating, the shorter kids can sit in the back and they can look over and still be able to see the screen. But the only downside to that is they're all the way in the back of the room, so they might not see the screen very well or whatever you're teaching on. But it's still, I think it's a great idea to have high top tables too.
Yeah. One thing, as you were talking about that, you mentioned the seating chart. And I know before the podcast started, you talked about some ideas that you had about students being able to choose where they sit in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some thoughts about that and some things that you've been able to do or not do that you wish you could have done?
All right. So whenever we're talking about this, it's interesting. I don't like it's interesting for me or to other people. For me, it's interesting because I don't like changing seats every week. I can do it every other week, every 3 weeks, every month, or every 9 weeks. We change seating. I can do that, but every week just gets a little bit on my nerves because I'm finally used to a spot, and then I go to a table that I don't particularly like as much because it's in the far corner and it's like I can't see or something like that. So I like changing every now and again.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So do you like to be able to walk in the classroom and the first day the teacher just says, find your spot, a place you would like to sit? Or do you prefer it to be assigned seating and you don't really have a choice?
So my ELA teacher last year in 5th grade was actually really good at this. She would have popsicle sticks, and she had these what are they called? They're like college. They're like plates that had a college on it, and they're hanging from the ceiling, hanging over each desk. So you would pull a popsicle stick, and it might say Alabama. So you go to the Alabama table,
Okay.
or it might have Tennessee. So you go over to Tennessee. I really like that. The only thing is we change every week. So I do like that, and I also like picking your seat. But at the same time, that can also start stuff, getting distracted with all your friends at one desk.
Yeah.
And people getting left out.
All right. So when you're saying the teacher had something hanging over the table, were you saying collage, like a design or something? I don't know what you're talking about.
So let's just say there's a rope. There's like a string from the ceiling, and it had a paper plate on it.
Okay.
And it just had the picture of the college on it.
Okay. I see what you're talking. You're talking about like the college, like a university.
A university, not a collage.
Yeah, I was
college.
thinking the word collage, and so I'm like trying to picture what you're talking about. But I love the idea about it being a college because she's helping to encourage children to think about advanced education. So that is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else about a classroom setup for grades 3, 4, and 5 that we haven't talked about that stick out in your mind? So you started school the other day, so you're kind of going through this with all your classes.
So, I personally I don't like single seats. Like, you have one desk, person next to you has one desk, and it's like one person per desk. I kind of like group desks because then you're also, we have these things in my ELA class for 6th grade, and there's it's called community supplies. So at each table there's a bucket with supplies in it, but it's a little more work for a teacher to put, let's just say there's 30 kids in one class, that he got to get or she got to get 30 buckets and put them.
Yeah.
So I like group desks more than I do solo desks.
Yeah. It also lets you collaborate and chat with your friends a little bit, and makes it a little bit more easy to socialize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else that we need to think about?
I don't think so. I think this was a pretty good first podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me with it, Brand. It's been so much fun. Thanks for joining us for this episode today. Make sure to check me out on YouTube. Just search for Rhonda Hayes. If you like this, subscribe. And when you find my YouTube channel, like that and subscribe too. Have a great day.